So now we have actually come to the first ray integration formula. I would like, of course, to do these, to give one program to each one of these old commentary sections, but I'm not really sure that that will be possible in the flow of discussion about the integration techniques. So I'll read it first, then we'll analyze it, and I'll read it again. Ray 1. The love of power must dominate. There must also be repudiation of those forms which wield no power. The word goes forth from soul to form. Stand up, press outward into life, achieve a goal. For you there must be not a circle, but a line. Prepare the form. Let the eyes look forward, not on either side. Let the ears be closed to all the outer voices, and the hands clenched, the body braced, the mind alert. Emotion is not used in furthering of the plan. Love takes its place. The symbol of a moving point of light appears above the brow. The keynote of the life, though uttered not, yet still is clearly heard. I move to power. I am the one. We are a unity in power, and all is for the power and glory of the one. Now, as we move through this, we are moving through different stages of evolution. The love of power must dominate. This appears within the personality of the first ray soul, even before the soul has begun to direct the integration process. So there will be always under the impression or the appropriation of first ray soul energy by the personality. Even though the personality may not even though the soul may not yet have a directing role, there will be, through this appropriation of soul energy by the personality, a growing love of power. Power is energy expressed in such a way that it will overcome all obstacles. The power to make an impact according to desire or will, the power to overcome all resistance, a directed flow of energy which fulfills desire or will, and of a sufficient strength, a directed flow of energy of sufficient strength to fulfill either desire or will. And at first this can be quite selfish. There must also be repudiation of those forms which wield no power. So the rejecting of the powerless and powerless states, they do not serve. So this is the despising of weakness in the realm of form, and also perhaps as regards people who are weak. They are put to the side. If you are a general in an army, you want to set up your commanders in such a way that they will actually achieve your objectives. You do not choose the weak ones. You do not choose circumstances which weaken you. You do not choose to be associated with people who cannot hold the impress of the will which you seek to have imposed, or through which you seek to accomplish. So the love of power must dominate. There must also be repudiation of those forms which wield no power. This is growing. Many kinds of personalities in the process of integrating will appropriate this first ray soul power, and it will be true of them even though there will be a secondary ray, the ray of the personality. because there will be the self-centered appropriation of soul power before that soul power is used for soul ends. This is important because we can use this great source of power in a way that the source itself would not sanction. And this is an earlier stage when we are simply ignorant, really, of where that power is coming from. We just feel it within, and yet the personality is the center of our field of consciousness and all important to us, the most important sensitive point, and we use everything we are given for the sake of this most important center, which we feel to be our personal self. Repudiation, this scattering, this rejection, the rejecting energy is related to the first ray, and earlier in the book he discusses the rejecting, repulsing, scattering energy of the first ray. Now the soul does speak, because we are reaching the stage of integration with, So this is the first stage of integration with, and not just of. So the word goes forth. There is some receptivity to the voice of the soul, because there is some aspiration. How did we put it earlier? He says it must be becoming slightly responsive to the soul. Some search for something higher is occurring. A search for something higher is occurring. So this gives us some responsiveness to the soul, sufficient to hear it. The word goes forth from soul to form, stand up. Well, to stand, the sitting is of the second ray and standing is of the first. This type of bodily position is specifically related to the first ray, whilst sitting is related to the second ray. You sit for enlightenment, as it has been told. This is whether or not it's a good idea, in the old theosophical sense, it is belonging to the second ray. If you think about it, well, the story goes, the Buddha sat under the Bodhi tree. He did not stand under the Bodhi tree for 48 hours. He may have gotten up now and then, but the principal approach in the use of the body was the attitude of sitting. And mostly when we see meditators, we find them not standing. Meditation is specifically related to the second ray and the sixth ray. I mean, all will meditate on every ray, but it's particularly the second and the sixth ray which approach divinity through meditation as the major means, and meditation is accomplished usually by sitting. Sometimes third ray types, like what's called walking meditations. I've been among them. I've tried that. It kind of satisfies the love of activity, which is hard to suppress. So you say, well, I can meditate and walk at the same time, and to a certain extent it may be true. And then there are, the Tai Chi types of meditations which have to do with certain formal actions, and that might be well used by the seventh ray type. And maybe performance is a type of meditation for the fourth ray type. I oftentimes think of the singer, or the artist, or the dancer along the fourth ray line, involved in a meditation which is a form of performance through the form, perform, or expression. Fourth and seventh rays have a lot in common in that respect. So the word goes forth from soul to form, and it's really interesting. Sometimes this term word is capitalized, sometimes not, and I think it always should be. This word, or this term, is not capitalized, but probably should be, as happens, it seems, randomly in the other stanzas. So it is the word of the soul. It is the communication from the soul to the personality. And it doesn't seem to be justified when the word goes forth to have it sometimes in the lower case and sometimes in the higher case. It always seems to me to be the same word or directive of the soul. It's not the full appreciation of the divine word, but at least it's an aspect of that. The word goes forth from soul to form. Stand up. So assume the position of the first-ray type who stands in spiritual being. Press outward into life circumstances, right? Into life circumstances. And this whole press and pressure. The first ray applies pressure, not a forcing power is applied. This is not a gentle movement forward. It's a deliberate moving forward in strength and repelling obstacles. If you press forward in life, watch out. Watch out for what's in the way. Or at least if you're in the way, watch out. So, and it's outward too. The accomplishment must occur upon the outer planes. Upon the outer planes. And if you think about it, the 137 line is a ray line which has to do with objectivity and with form and with work with matter. The strictly subjective rays, the 246. Now this doesn't mean that the 1357 types will not turn inward, will not meditate, will not seek subjective counsel, but at first their work is within the outer world. Even if you think about the Manu on this first ray of great abstraction, his work is to strengthen the forms of matter so that they can withstand the spirit. His work is definitely upon the Vulcanian physical plane. So when you apply pressure at a point, it is a Vulcanian first ray act. The application of, if I could just spell and type, of pressure at a point is a Vulcanian act. And Vulcan, a powerful first-ray planet. Achieve a goal in a very one-pointed way. The first and the sixth ray have a lot of the one-pointedness, but usually the one-pointedness of the first ray is rather wiser and more effective. Achieve a specific goal in the outer world. Do not worry about embracing the many at this point. That may come later. For you there must be not a circle, but a line which moves directly towards the fulfillment of the will which you intend. There is an objective. There is a configuration to be achieved. There is some... Master Morya said, I always recall it, he said, bring me an achievement. Bring me an achievement. So you move in a forward manner directly toward the goal and destroying all obstacles. I will destroy all obstacles, says the first ray type in these Blessed One stanzas that we have worked on before. For you there must be not a circle, not the embracing circle. We will see that the great opposites are the line and the circle in a sense, and the second ray type will always work with the circle as an important symbol and method of motion, encircling, encompassing, embracing, including. All of these are circular motions, but the first ray goes straight to the goal, and later, when it begins to absorb some secondary qualities, may become more embracing of those that it has oftentimes destroyed along the way. But the first ray is not really, when rightly used, going to destroy consciousness. It's going to destroy some of the forms through which consciousness was working, so as to restore better, more powerful, more suitable forms. So follow your vision and achieve a goal directly. So move directly. And we do know that the first ray is called, in its monadic aspect, the director. The second ray, the teacher. The third ray, the manipulator, on those monadic levels. Direction, moving directly, straight is another one of those words, straight to the point. Don't beat around the bush, There's not so much tact involved here. There is not wasting time, a movement directly towards the objective. So the circle and the line, and think of these two. Think of the circle and the line as representative of the second ray and first ray methods, respectively. All right. So the soul has spoken, and it says, stand up and receive the impress of the will and be ready to act, because in a state of standing, you're much more ready to act at a moment's notice than you are in the state of sitting. You know how it is when you're sitting, you say, well, let me get up and then I can do that. When you're standing, you're ready to do. You're ready for action. And press outward, press away from yourself, press forward in order to impress outward into circumstance. Achieve a goal which is conceived by your vision and to be implemented by your will, and go straight there, and do not waste time by circling around. Now, there's still more soul advice. Prepare the form, and we might say, this is just what the Manu and his department does. They prepare the racial form. They oversee the evolution of the form so it becomes ever more suited and sensitive even to carrying the subjective energies. We don't want the form to give way, to fall apart, to disintegrate when the soul and spirit come closer to it, and this, of course, is a great possibility. DK warned us that many of our forms, human forms in the Western world, were just not suited yet for the carrying of occult energies, because they had been improperly raised with the wrong diet and even the unsuitable exercise. They could not bear the inner fire. So prepare the form so that when there's an attempt to bring spirit into matter, the matter does not just fall apart, does not disintegrate. Let the eyes look forward. Well, you know, sometimes third-ray eyes are looking from side to side and off into the great beyond, and the second-ray eyes are looking on more compassionately and in an embracing manner. But no, the first-ray eyes simply look towards the fulfillment of the goal, and concentration is not broken by side issues, we might say. First things first, you know, first things first, and there is always with the first-ray type this great sense of what is priority. Not all things at once, but one thing after another, done in such a way that the thing done supports the next thing, and that thing done supports the next thing. So there is not a crumbling of the edifice. This is the Vulcanian method of building. The building aspect of the first ray. There is such a thing. So let the eyes look forward and not on either side. Just have this unbroken intent, concentration, which is not emotional. Intent, concentration, not emotional. Because the sixth ray can also look forward with intensity, but also with a great deal of that magnetic energy of emotion, devotion. Not on either side. So let your concentration not be broken, because let the will be applied with fullness, undiluted fullness upon the accomplishment of the objective. And for the ears, it's the same thing. You know, generally there's such an intent concentration. Let the ear be closed to all the outer voices, which means closed to distraction. One must not be deviated from one's intent. You know, the second ray, second-ray types have the listening ear, and they take in from all sides. They try to be receptive, but this, for the first ray, is a posture of temporary non-receptivity, because it will distract, dilute, deflect, in some way prevent full impact. So doing all to repel or not to receive that which would prevent full impact on the objective. The impact of all the powers at the disposal of the first-rate type directly upon the objective, so that there is no dilution of strength and the accomplishment can occur expeditiously. I sometimes tell my first-rate friends, well, you know, there's no need to use a sledgehammer to squash a flea. There has to be some kind of measurement of forces, and of course Shambhala is tremendous for co-measurement of forces. It is the power that touches and then withdraws, and that withdrawal is, the touching and withdrawal is exquisitely timed, and so is the amount of force released. But in the early first ray experience, there can be a kind of use of too much force for the particular objective. That has to be measured. But anyway, not to be distracted. And the hands clenched. Now this is the fist. This is the Vulcanian attitude. It's the hammer, the fist as a hammer, Vulcan-like. As the hands clenched, when you clench a fist, clenched hands represent the concentration of power and the non-dissipation of power. You know, if your fingers are giving, if they're open, if they're doing all different kinds of things, the power is spread around. But now with clenched fists, you have the maximum impact. It may not be very skillful and manipulative, but at least you can make the maximum impact with the fist. If you compare, let's say, punching someone or slapping someone, well, the punch is obviously more powerful. So let there be concentrated power in the hands, right? There be concentrated power in the hands. And no waste, no dispersion. Because the fist, in a way, holds in. I remember one of the teachers did say, well, a clenched fist has naught to give. And of course, the truly giving hand is something else, isn't it? You open the hand to give. The clenched fist is holding the power within for the sake of some specific objective where the full impact is required for the achievement, the accomplishment. Okay. Then, the body braced against impact, let's see, or in readiness, and also against the counter energy because it will happen. The body can be braced in readiness. Have you seen, well, there's a certain tense alertness, we might call it. Tense alertness in, let us say, the runner, the vaulter, or in athletic events. One does not go from a relaxed position immediately into action. No. One goes from a tensed position into action. So the body is braced for action. At the same time, the body can be braced against the impact of the counterblow. But maybe that has not yet happened here. And the mind alert. So alert to every step that has to be taken to achieve the goal. I sometimes have read about these Navy SEALs and how they carry out a mission. Of course, so much is instinctive with them, but the commando has to be so mentally alert. And every minute the mind is occupied with the goal and with what the environment offers, either to facilitate that goal or to interrupt it. So there is this very powerful executive mind alert, instantaneously alert to all changes in the environment as those changes affect the accomplishment of the goal. The mind alert. Emotion is distraction. As DK has told us that first-rate people tend to despise emotion, but sometimes have to be brought into a condition of emotion if they are going to learn to live a fuller life. We sometimes see that. I remember maybe no commander in the Second World War was more feared by the Axis powers than General Patton. Some kind of reincarnated Roman warrior, and actually having the memory of those battles. So he was a great moving machine, irresistible. He was always having to be held back by the field commanders superior to him because he would have run on ahead. And yet he was a very emotional man. He easily burst into tears, and he was known for his spontaneous displays of emotion. But in the case of this executive action, emotion is not used in furthering of the plan, because emotion can distract, can take one aside, can prevent a proportional measurement of forces which are needed in the proposed achievement. So there is oftentimes with the first-rate type the suppression of emotion, just nothing but the facts and the job to be done, because feeling for or against will be an interference. DK talks also about the relation of the first ray to the onset of cancer, and how there were so many abuses in Lemurian times of the sexual energy that the Atlanteans used the first ray to suppress that energy, realizing that it had led to all kinds of excesses and disease and great trouble. And in that suppression, in which the first ray plays a big part, the disease cancer arose because there was not an outlet, a proper outlet for the suppressed energies. Anyway, emotion is oftentimes suppressed. What did you feel like when you were carrying out this commando raid, let us say? Well, I didn't feel anything. I just did my job, one thing after another. There may have been a sense of excitement, but no other feelings per se, not reactions to this and reactions against that. Instead, love, which the first-rate type has to cultivate, takes its place. So purposeful action under the influence of a greater love. That is the motive for the developed first ray types. So love of the heart, remember the heart has this quality of the first ray and of the second ray. The heart is a great center for the first ray type. They do have to cultivate that wide embracing love, and the word, one of the words of power for the first ray here in these integration techniques will be found to be the word inclusion, which is such a really a second ray word. So each tendency of the ray types has its own antidote, and it often comes from a ray which is quite different from itself. Just the way, as we'll see, the second ray word of power, which is centralization, takes its root in the first ray. Something the first ray can do so well is to centralize. Something the second ray can do so well is to include. So they are antidotes to each other, these first two rays, which are in a way like pairs of opposites. So it's not these solar plexus distractions of for and against and bias of some kind that is used in furthering the plan, but a larger type of love which will serves. So let's just say that here, that will serves a larger type of love, realized, not immediately, realized eventually, eventually, under the impulse of the soul. We will see here when we study this first ray integration formula how the first ray type regains love. Well, maybe as a monad, somehow on higher planes, all of these qualities are part of the possession of these great spiritual beings, but it is forgotten in the lower worlds. All right, and then we notice something else, that a symbol of a moving point of light appears above the brow. Now the brow has so much to do with the sense of direction. We have seen straight direction is so important for the first ray type. This doesn't mean they don't have strategy and cannot learn to wait until the right moment, because the will has a strong connection with patience when that will is properly exhibited. One does not want to hastily ride into the jaws of death like General Custer did, when a more prudent or rational type might have assessed the circumstance. So the symbol of a moving point of light appears above the brow, and it's almost like the unicorn's horn, we might say. Think of it as the symbolic horn of power and direction of the unicorn. It has to do with seeing the vision and having the power to move towards the fulfillment of that vision. This oftentimes the stare of the first ray type involving the Ajna center is very powerful. It's undeflectable. So a certain undeflectable excuse me, power develops here at the brow center. Now the brow can, of course, there are many centers here, as we are told, seen in some of the books on Laya Yoga. So are we talking about the Ajna center only? Well, it cannot be sure that we are, but anyway, there is a brow force here, and one can think of the initiate on the first ray really having the tendency to become the unicorn, which has this extremely potent directed force. And it's going, it illuminates the goal, it illuminates the objective, it goes straight to the objective and has the strength to achieve the objective. Sometimes look at the area around the eyes and the brow of those who are specifically first-ray types, and you will perhaps see the kind of expression that I'm talking about. The keynote of the life though uttered not, because, let's just say, oft times, first-rate types are men of few words. They don't need always to be talking. Let's just say action takes the place of talk. And Vulcan, their planet, the planet of men of will, is not a verbal planet. As a matter of fact, DK talked about Vulcan being involved with some centers near the throat, which had more to do with the inarticulate types, and which went out of power when the greater articulation of the throat center came in. Now, of course, this doesn't mean that first-rate types do not speak. They can be great orators. Look at Churchill. Some combination there between the first and the fourth ray and the sixth ray involved with his strong Sagittarius energy. A great, great orator, and obviously a first-ray type. But let's just say that one doesn't need to be telling others what one's keynote is. The keynote is demonstrable. Excuse me. The keynote is demonstrable through one's actions. And the first-rate type is the true occultist, the true man of action, as it has been said. We don't just sit around thinking about it all the time or pondering what it might be like if we did act. One of our colleagues talks about the cafe at the edge of the cliff, where it's kind of like a coffee house, and you sit around drinking your cappuccino, discussing what it might be like to jump off the cliff. Well, maybe that's more for the third-rate and second-rate types. The first-rate type walks up to the cliff and jumps off the cliff. Doesn't have to talk so much about what it might be like if he did jump off the cliff. The keynote of the life, though uttered not, yet still is clearly heard by all who are impacted by this energy. In other words, let's call it speaking through action. I move to power, and that line above the brow is a movement towards power. I move towards the acquisition of power to accomplish the higher will. Let's just say that without power, the will cannot be accomplished, or that which one wills cannot be accomplished. I move to power, and this, of course, is coming at a much later stage. I am the one. It's a later stage of realization, wouldn't you say? A later stage of realization, because, one must be quite integrated and fused before one can say, I am the one. Well, one can say in lowercase, I am the one, I'm the one at the center, I am I, let other forms exist, I rule because I am. But if one says, I am the one, that's isolated unity. That's beyond the third degree. That's actually consummated at the fifth degree. So you see in these stanzas, we oftentimes move through a great deal of time. It's not as if we are speaking of a process that is occurring in one localized moment. It often spans a developmental period. I am the one. We are a unity in power. We... So because I am functioning as a soul, I know that I am we. So I and my colleagues, we are a unity on the plane of soul, and we're working under the first ray. And we unite ourselves the better to express power. We unite ourselves. If I could just get that earth scheme, LVS, the better to express power and achieve the plan. We are a unity in power. In other words, I am no longer solo. I work with others who share in the soul sense, the same objective. So it's like the team. It's like the commando team or the army, we together, united by the divine power descending. And all is for the power and the glory of the One. Who are we serving? We are not serving our lower ego anymore. We are serving the planetary logos, aren't we? We are serving, that'll be serving, SVG. Why not, huh? If you can save time, hopefully it does. We are serving the planetary logos, the One. Of course, eventually we'll serve the solar logos and so forth, but in soul I unite with my comrades on the same ray. We, in the same ashram, we dedicated to the same task, using the same first ray energy. We are a unity in power, the power of the first ray soul, and all that we do is not for selfish personal objectives, but we are in a state of isolated unity, and we perceive the One and the will of the One. And when the will of the One is achieved in power, we have the glory. When the will of the One is achieved through the right use of power, we have the great glory shining forth. Well, I know I'm well over, but I did want to do, I'm well over. But I wanted to do this, and I'm not finished yet. I have to read this for us. Love of power. The love of power. Here it is. So I'll read it, and maybe I'll just say a couple of things and then read it straight through. Even at the early phases, the love of power must dominate, and it will, as we appropriate power from the inner first ray soul. The love of power must dominate, otherwise the task cannot be accomplished. There will be insufficient applied energy to accomplish the will, either our personal will or the higher will of which we are becoming aware. There must be also be repudiation of those forms which wield no power, because they do not serve the achievement of the objective. The objective will fail, and the one thing that the first ray type does not want is to fail in his direct path towards a specific achievement. The word of the soul, goes forth from soul to form. It's carrying a certain energy. It's not just advice, like do this. It's actually carrying the energy to do it, because it's the first ray that is coming through any particular personality. Stand up, as first ray types do, and receive the energy straight through the head center and all the way down to the base of the spine. Press outward into life. Use Vulcan to press forward. Get rid of all obstacles. If anything is in your way, press forward and get it out of the way. Achieve a specific goal, a directive. For you, there must be not a circle but a line, and the circle will come later when there's a rounding out of the being. Prepare the form so it's strong enough to withstand the subjective energies, that the eyes look forward, not on either side, not to be distracted by other possible visions or objectives, that the ears be closed to all the outer voices, because many voices can give different directions, and you know what is your direction because it's coming from within you. And the hands clenched for the concentration of power and maximum impact, the body braced in readiness, the mind alert to sense all possible deviations in the environment, all possible interferences. The mind is alert, so that one thing after another, the mind can be used to accomplish the objective. Emotion, which is often so attractive or repulsive, is not used in the furthering of the plan. It would just get in the way, and we are this time we are serving the plan, not just a plan, a personal plan. We're serving the plan. Love of the heart, and in a larger sense, eventually takes its place. We destroy and we serve in will for the sake of a larger sense love, which comes in because we are listening to the word of the soul, and the soul is always love, regardless of what its ray may be. The symbol of a moving point of light appears above the brow. I've thought about which way this light moves, but I think it's straightforward. And there's a great power concentrated at the brow, so our objective is illumined, and the strength to achieve the objective comes oftentimes right from this radiating center, the undeflectibility of the individual from this radiating, directing center. The keynote of the life, which is going to be stated, though uttered not, because why waste words? Instead, put your intention into action, yet still is clearly heard by all who really observe how the individual acts. I move to power, to accumulate greater power, because that power will help me have sufficient energy to accomplish the inner directive, which is my responsibility. I am the one. Isolated unity has come. I am identifying not just with my little oneness, but with a greater oneness, and it's as if I act with the strength of the one, and on behalf of the one, and even as the one. I am the one. It's almost like the master is speaking, but we cover a lot of ground here. At least the initiate is speaking by this point. We are a unity in power. The soul and my personal self are a unity in power, and all my comrades on the plane of soul with whom I act are a unity in power. But at least soul and personality, I didn't mention this before, but soul and personality being integrated together are unified, and together a great power on behalf of the plan can be asserted, because soul and personality are united, and all that I do, and all that we do together, soul and personality, is for the power and glory of the one which I am. All right. The love of power must dominate. There must also be repudiation of those forms which wield no power. The word goes forth from soul to form. Stand up, press outward into life, achieve a goal. For you there must be not a circle, but a line. Prepare the form. Let the eyes look forward, not on either side. Let the ears be closed to all the outer voices, and the hands clenched, the body braced, the mind alert. Emotion is not used in furthering of the plan. Love takes its place. The symbol of a moving point of light appears above the brow. The keynote of the life, though uttered not, yet still is clearly heard. I move to power. I am the one. We are a unity in power, and all is for the power and glory of the one.